Hey everyone, just waiting for a few people to join us and we'll get started. Hope everybody's having a great week and a great weekend. It's my birthday weekend, so I just wanted to spend it with you guys. I thought that would be awesome. So, Melania, if you're still there, thank you so much for the happy birthday wishes, and I hope your husband has an equally great birthday. Thank you. Let's see if anybody is here. Give me a shout out in the chat if you're here. Hey, Pamela, thank you so much. Hey, Kimberly. I'll be honest, tomorrow is actually... Hey, Caucasian. Hey, Sasquatch. How are you, sweetie? I'll be the first to admit that my birthday is actually tomorrow, but I will have festivities planned with the family. Hey, Felicia. Hey, Jacqueline. So I wanted to spend at least an hour or two with you guys today. So we're starting to get some people here. Thank you so much. I apologize for the last minute reschedule. I am obviously... Hey, Linda. I am obviously very, very bad at live streaming. If you haven't seen Caucasian Sasquatch's channel, go over to his. He's very good at live streams. I, however, am not. I always tend to have work or something else come on, which is why I stick to mainly pre-recorded videos. But I will try to stream more often and be on time with it. So I do apologize. But every time I schedule something, either something comes up at work or something comes up with family. So I do apologize. Hey, Julie. So today we're just going to chit-chat about pending cases. We're going to talk about JJ Vallow. We're going to talk about Jussie Smollett. Hey, Zach. How are you, sweetie? We're going to talk about, well, Sasquatch, you do a great, great job. And if you haven't been over to his channel, I highly recommend you do it. You go over there. He highlights other small channels on his channel. He is a channel dedicated to furthering the career of other YouTubers, which I think is very, very commendable. And he does a great job at it. Firewood, Zach, does it really get that cold in Northern California? Well, of course it does. It's the mountains. Of course it gets that cold in Northern California. That is a dumb question, now that I think about it. But Zach is my good buddy out in California. I follow him on Facebook. He does great photos of the mountains and the valleys of Northern California, which is my favorite part of California. There next to Southern Oregon, Northern California. I love the mountains. The mountains are my chosen natural wonder that I like to partake in. I'm sure it comes from growing up in the mountains in Appalachia. But I much prefer the mountains to the beach, the desert, anything. It's my thing. And California and Oregon have some beautiful areas for sure. But hey, Mindy, thank you. Y'all, I'm getting old. I'm going to say it, I will be 47 years old. So age 50 is looming. And I don't feel like I'm almost half a century old. I hope I don't look it. But you know what's really odd? I'm a huge fan of old 80s and 90s television because that was the era I was a child and then a young adult, teenager, young adult. And so shows like The Golden Girls and things like that were some of my favorites. And I just remember thinking that like B. Arthur, Betty White, Rue McClanahan, Estelle Getty were all like 60 or 70 during that show. But they were actually in their 50s. And so they just look so much older than a lot of the 50 and 60-year-olds you see today. So growing up as a silent generation or a traditionalist or a baby boomer must have been a lot rougher than growing up as a Gen Xer. It was just amazing how much older they looked. It also could have been, oh my God, thank you so much, Zach. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And thank you, Ron. But like I said, it was just amazing how much older those ladies looked than anybody of the same age now. So I think it's kind of a testament to how far we've come as a society. Now, it could have been that they were made to look that old by the makeup and hair department, but they were, it's just amazing. But anyway, we're going to talk about enough of mussings of the Golden Girls. Anybody else here a fan of the Golden Girls? I still like binge watch it. I put it on last night when I was falling asleep and just listened to it. My wife is actually staying over at the other house that my mother-in-law has here on the property because she does game design, and she's also plays State of Survival, and their team is in hey Pamela, her team is in this big tournament with State of Survival. It's kind of a zombie apocalypse type of game. And so she stayed over at the other house because she plays with people in Europe and Asia and had to be up at like 2 a.m. to Zach, I hope your mother, that's, my mother has too. Thank you, Ron. Thank you. Thank you so much. But so she was over there, and I certainly thanked her for not waking me up at 2 a.m. But I still put on the Golden Girls and listened to it as I fell asleep. And when I woke up this morning, there was the little thing saying, "Are you still watching the Golden Girls?" I'm like, do I stutter, Hulu? Yes, I'm still watching the Golden Girls play. So, hey Pamela, yes, I'm a huge fan. Any 80s sitcom, I'm a huge fan. There's very little television in the 80s that I did not like. But anyway, what really gets me today is that kids growing up today never got the beautiful chaos that was an ABC after school special. I don't know if any of you remember those, but if you've never seen Helen Hunt get high on angel dust and leap through a window and convulse on the ground, you haven't lived. And that was one of my favorite after school specials. And I tried that same thing to get out of jury duty one time. Does not work. Does not work. But anyway, thank you so much for everybody coming over. I'm so blown away by the support I get on these live streams, even though I'm not the best at them. I'm just, honestly, sometimes it's just a stream of consciousness when I'm on here. But thank you, Language. Thank you, Linda. Oh, yeah. My mother-in-law, as I said, she decorates, and it's now Easter time. This was St. Patty's Day for a long time. It'll probably be Easter to almost the 4th of July, and then she'll switch it out for patriotic. But yeah. But anyway, we're going to talk about Chad Daybell. We're going to talk about, in the Lori Vallow case, we're going to talk about Jussie Smollett, latest updates on that, and we're going to talk about Anna Delvey or Sorokin, however you deem to refer to her. As we all know, Anna Delvey Sorokin was a Russian-born German citizen that came to the United States, and yeah, Zach, absolutely. They used to show that stuff to us in like elementary school. Those ABC after school specials, and they dealt with drug abuse, general abuse, homelessness. I mean, they were kind of downers, and they were supposed to have this moral thing, and they did, but they were very strong for young children. It was either that or when our favorite sitcoms had a very special episode, where they what was it, Deceivers? Can't even think of the name of the show. Right? Kirk Cameron, Deceivers, when the sister's boyfriend died, Sandy, when he died, and actually Sandy was played by Chandler from Friends. So that was our first look at Chandler from Friends, and he played Sandy, the girl from Deceivers' boyfriend. And he died in a car accident on a very special episode. And there was also a very special episode of just about every sitcom dealing with something grotesque. But anyway, that's the reason us Gen Xers grew up strong. Very strong. That and the fear of nuclear war looming over our head. Growing pains. Yes, correct, Zach. But anyway, so Anna Delvey, as you know, she came here to the United States. She faked her way through Manhattan society. I did both a episode on the case itself, and then I did a comparison of the Netflix series Inventing Anna by Shonda Rhimes, and kind of broke down the differences in the case. Well, that saga is still ongoing. She was ordered to be deported back to Germany as terms of her sentence at the beginning of March, but she's still here. She is still fighting the deportment and the deportation, and she is still in the custody of ICE and at Rikers Island. So, yeah. But believe it or not, on the 21st of March, an art show for her benefit was held by Manhattan Society. Oh, how soon they forget how much she made a fool of them and how much she defrauded them. But she has evidently been doing doodlings while she's in prison, and 3 of them were at this art show for as reproductions, and supposedly they were sold for around $10,000 or $15,000. So she still has a way of extorting money from the ultra rich in Manhattan, which shows just how, short their memories are. And supposedly she also called into the art show and thanked everybody for supporting her. I mean, she's a criminal. This is why so many people, I think, do this kind of stuff, because we don't punish criminals anymore. We glorify them. Like I said, she's been held up as some kind of Robin Hood kind of character, when she wasn't robbing from the rich to give to the poor, like actual Robin Hood was said to have done. She was robbing from the rich and keeping it for herself, and crapping on those that she felt was beneath her. So she's a swindler and an elitist, but yet they still support her, and yet we hold her up as some Robin Hood character. She gets her own Netflix series, which I'm sure she got some money. Thank you so much, Maybe. Thank you to everyone for just being here, and for those that have contributed. Thank you. That helps me buy new equipment for the channel and generally improve the channel. But so we don't punish criminals anymore. They write a book, they make $1 million, they get a TV show, they get movies, and they end up with their own talk show. That's exactly what happens to criminals nowadays. And I guess in the scheme of things, she defrauded rich people, not really so bad. If you compare, like what Martin Scarelli, one of the people that she knew, the farmer bro that jacked up the price of an HIV medication. What was a medication that treated fungal infections that HIV patients and cancer patients often get. He jacked it up like 40 times. So I guess if you compare what she did to that, and maybe, even Billy McFarland, which she also knew from Fire Festival, maybe hers isn't so bad because they took advantage of people that really couldn't afford it. But yeah, so that's the latest on Anna Delvey. She is fighting deportation to Germany. What is going on with Jussie Smollett? Well, as you know, he was sentenced to 150 days in Cook County Jail and spent the 6 days that he actually served in the psych unit because of his outburst in court and because some of the things he was doing while he was in there, and got himself released pending his appeal. So now he's out on house arrest, protective custody, back at his swanky Chicago apartment. Hey, Felicia, so good to see you, sweetie. And is now, just waiting for his appeal. He is allowed to go, as far as I know, wherever he wants to go if he's trying to work. And according to the documents that I've read, it could take up to 2 to 3 years for his appeals process to go through. And what does that mean? That if he had just manned up and done his time, he was in protective custody, he was in solitary confinement, he was away from every other inmate at Cook County, he would have been out by summer. But instead, he would have been out, by the end of summer. But instead, now he has to wait for this entire appeal to go through. And then they'll decide whether or not his sentence of almost around 150 days in Cook County Jail, another 26 months of probation where he can go all over the country and just call in, plus his fines, was fair. And what happens if they decide that was fair? He goes right back in. Hey, Kat, thank you so much. I'm sure the weather's a lot nicer there in Southern California. But he goes right back in. He goes right back in. Now, I don't know about you, but my life can change drastically in 2 to 3 years. He could have just served his sentence, been done with everything, including the probation and the fines, in 2 to 3 years. But now it'll just start all over. So what if he's got a role, which we all know his acting career is going to suffer for a while, but it's not over. What if he's a regular on another series, or has a movie deal or a concert tour in that 2 to 3 years? Oops, now he's got to go back to Chicago and go back into jail. So I think in the end, this man is just the epitome of stupid. I mean, what do y'all think? Do you think he should just served his time and been done with it? Or risk the stigma of having to start all over in 2 to 3 years, ever how long this appeal takes? And what do y'all think? Or I guess he's banking on the fact that maybe an appeals court will be a lot more merciful and he'll get out of it altogether. I guess so, but he's still costing himself a whole lot of money and running the risk of upending his life when maybe his life might be totally different then than it is today. That's my fear. I would have went ahead and served the time. I was in solitary. No one was going to shank me because I was in solitary. Just serve your time. You're out by August and go on with your life. And I agree with you, Pamela. He needs to serve it. Kat, I do agree with you. I watched Dr. Grande's video. I don't know if y'all are a fan of Dr. Todd Grande, but he is awesome. I really enjoy his stuff. He was talking about how he was stereotypical, in his opinion, narcissist, and how that's probably why what happened to him. So there you go. Yep, I agree, Zach. Serve my time while waiting, since he's going to serve more time. I'd just rather walk away. Exactly. Get it over with. I'll tell you guys the story that I've never really told before, but way back in my young partying days, and it's not something I would ever do again. I got a little drunk at a company Christmas party. I drove home and got pulled over, and I ended up having to serve 24 hours in county jail as part of my sentence, and then probation, restricted license, fines. I mean, I jumped through all the hoops. I was a good girl. I got it all over with. But why wouldn't I just go ahead and get it over with, knock it all out? I was done with it in a year, everything, and went on with my life. I would hate to think that I spent thousands of dollars to fight it and then had to go right back in. Honestly, I'm really thinking he's hoping that enough time will have passed, that the appeals court will be a lot more forgiving than the regular trial judge. That's just what I'm saying. But Pamela, I agree with you. I still don't think that his career is over, sadly enough. I would like to think that it was, but we were just talking about how Anna Delvey is still making thousands of dollars off her case, and I think Jussie Smollett will eventually. Yes, and he wants more attention for later. Yeah, you're probably right. People will have forgotten about him, possibly. But I really think he will probably still have a career. I do. I don't think we are. It's not like I was when I was growing up. If you were a criminal, you were like almost shunned. I'm not saying that's right either, but you regretted what you had done based on the reception that you got from society in general. That's not the case anymore. You end up becoming kind of a folk hero. But I suppose he's hoping that his notoriety will translate into a career. And let's face it, in some niches, it probably will. But that's the latest on him. And now, oh, Chad Daybell. Oh, Chin's Daybell, as the L Mom says. Two very important things this month. A judge in Idaho has ruled that his case, remember the last live stream we did, he had appealed his, O'Pryor had just put forth a motion to sever his case from Lori Vallow's because it's unclear when if ever she will stand trial in the state of Idaho for the murder of JJ and Tylee, because she's not been deemed competent to stand trial. Well, as a result, Pryor and his team had petitioned that Chad Daybell should be his case should be severed from Lori so that it could go ahead in January of 2023. Whereas the state is petitioning that they should be tried together to save money and resources. Well, it appears that Pryor's whole argument was that Daybell has a right to get on with his life. They want some clarity. He would rather just have his day in court and have her have hers later, but the judge did not agree with him and refused to sever the two cases. So, what does that mean? That means that potentially and probably the case will be pushed past January of 2023 because they are waiting for Vallow to be deemed competent to stand trial. And who knows whenever that will be. So it could be that's pushed to 2024, 2025, all the time Daybell rotting in jail, which I'm not going to say he doesn't deserve that. But I think binding himself to Miss Crazy Pants Barbie is probably the worst thing he ever did. Thank you, Emily. And May, I agree with you. I agree. As far as Jussie, I think he'll get off. I really do. But that's how that stands. I don't foresee that trial actually taking place in January. I think it's going to be pushed off for a couple more years until they decide what to do with Vallow, who has been charged with the wrongful death of her ex-husband, Charles Vallow, in Arizona. And Arizona does have the not guilty by insanity plea, so she will probably have to stand trial in Arizona. So I'm not sure how that's going to affect the trial in Idaho. I just think Daybell's going to be rotting in jail while waiting for his trial to rot some more, because there's absolutely no way. And I don't think, did they ever rule on the death penalty or not in that case? I can't remember. That's one part I can't remember. Did they ever rule whether or not they were going to seek the death penalty? I believe last thing they were going to seek the death penalty, or at least have it on the table. So he's just going to be rotting in jail until they either sever his case from hers or she's deemed competent to stand trial. And she's still in a state facility getting treatment for whatever is wrong with her. So, Pamela, they have not? Okay. I didn't know. So he's just going to be rotting, waiting for trial. In more Daybell news, it has been deemed that Daybell himself will not be charged in the attempted murder of Brandon Boudreaux. Remember Melanie Palawowski's ex-husband, who was shot out supposedly, allegedly, by Alex Cox. That Daybell will not be held and not be charged in that case. They're still deciding on whether or not Lori will be charged in that case, even though she's already been charged with Charles Vallows, or in charge of Charles Vallow. So even if the Idaho case is completely thrown out, which I don't think it will be, she's got a long road ahead of her in Arizona. That's for sure. But I get the feeling that both Lori and Chad kind of hope that this all died with Alex. Kat, from what I understand, he signed that property over to John Pryor, his attorney, because, I mean, his publishing company had not been doing good. Springfield Books had not been doing that well up until that point. It had basically been, and so he actually wrote that his property in Idaho over to John Pryor in exchange for representing him. So that property is gone unless there's some other way to pay for his legal defense, from what I understand. Pam, I agree with you. I think he should be implicated in both Charles and Brandon. I mean, the apple does not fall far from the tree. Let's face it. It was all a crazy cult, and they did crazy cult things, and everything from Charles to Brandon to even Alex. I mean, let's face it. Alex did have some health problems, but it would not surprise me if something, wasn't done to Alex to keep him from talking, because it's not the first time they've removed somebody that was in their way or they potentially feared. So it's all coming from the same spot, whether or not it's Lori or Chad pulling the strings. I don't know anymore. I don't get the feeling that Chad was the mastermind, but possibly. I think all roads point to Lori, honestly. But it is just amazing how those things have played out. I agree. I think it's very, very telling of Chad's overall character, that he pretty much threw away his entire past life for Crazy Barbie. I mean, let's just face it. And, they pretty much, the book, not on, okay, well, let's take not even aside from finances. And I agree with you, Zach, is that you got Chad, you got Lori, let's face it, Melanie Gibb, Melanie Palawowski, probably Zulema, and to a lesser degree, Melanie Gibbs' second ex-husband, the other crazy preacher dude, would not surprise me. I think it's just very telling. It's just very telling that, not only did he just seek to destroy his former life with Tammy, not only by taking her life, which I'm going to say it right out here. I mean, on exhumation, it has now been released that she was asphyxiated. Now, unless she had a medical problem that caused her airways to close, or perhaps fluid from her stomach to come up and her drowned in it, there's only two ways to be asphyxiated: pillow over the face, plastic bag over the head. And that pretty much has to be held in place by another person, i.e. Chad Daybell. So, yeah. Not only did he take their mother, he also threw away any possible financial security that would have come from their parents as well. Property, the book company, any money that he had, I'm sure, went to the lawyers. So yes, absolutely. What's maybe saying? Has anyone noticed that since scandemic, everyone is reversed with all the woke radicals before the I agree that the more, I think it's honestly no longer a question of race, religion, sexual orientation, any of that. I think it's more very, very rich versus us not so rich people, and there's two levels of justice. Let's face it. I mean, perhaps in some, like some small county courts, I'm sure justice is still blind, where everybody is still kind of, I think justice is blind. Like, if everybody involved in the case is middle class or working class or, even poorer, I think perhaps in that regard, justice is blind. And the same if everybody involved in the case is upper middle class, wealthy, mega rich, elite. Yeah, I think justice is blind there. But when it comes to a comparison between the two, or if you have two people of two different social systems, socioeconomic systems against each other, that it kind of, justice kind of, takes the blindfold off a little bit and rules accordingly. Let's just face it. But I don't know how that's going to serve. I mean, I would say everybody involved in this case is middle class, working class, in some cases upper middle class, because I know both Charles had a very good income. Brandon was certainly not poor. So I think justice will be served in these cases, again, because you're dealing with people in roughly the same socioeconomic class. So we do have that. So if if you're driving a Nissan, you hit my Dodge truck, probably you and I are going to get equal treatment under the law. But if you hit somebody's Porsche, maybe not so much. But anyway. But yeah, I do think it's sad that the Daybell children lost pretty much everything, including their mom. I have never, divorce is a thing, and I know that it's. I would much rather. Why didn't Chad just divorce Tammy? Why did he kill her? Well, I know why. Probably he thought he'd never be caught, and he would keep all of his assets and money. He wouldn't have to divide his assets with her, and I'm sure because he was considered some kind of religious icon that wouldn't look too good on his permanent record, so to speak. But look at the number of televangelists that are just out doing. Good Lord, Ed. Check out my videos on televangelist scandals if you think that stuff doesn't happen. It doesn't destroy anybody's religious career, honestly. I mean, look at how many times Peter Popoff has been exposed as a fraud, and he's still out there putting the healing hands on people. It's all about money, absolutely. Hey, L. Jensen. Yeah, Mormon Church does have a lot of money. That's one reason I like to watch the L Mom. She really breaks that down for you. And I'm sure they do want this case largely buried, because even though Daybell was kind of a fringe Mormon cult type group, it still stemmed from the LDS Church, some of the beliefs, and they don't want that anywhere near them. The same way the Catholic Church covers up all the stuff that goes on behind the scenes in the Catholic Church. They don't want that associated with them. The same way Jehovah's Witnesses and any church, really. I can tell you growing up that things were scandalous in my home church, and it would just get covered up and dealt with within the church. I think that's commonplace and totally kind of how religions kind of protect themselves. I am still planning a video on an in-depth deep dive on the Catholic Church and all of its scandals. It's going to take me a while to put everything together. I'm also working on a little mini documentary on the nurses and doctors of the Third Reich and what went on there in the eugenics and program. And I'll probably just got this demonetized by saying Third Reich. But I am working on that. And I'm working on the case of the bad vegan, which is quite interesting. There's a new Netflix miniseries out on that particular case called Bad Vegan. But I'm also going to be delving into the actual case. And then, again, just like I did with the Anna Delvey case and Inventing Anna, I'm going to compare the real case to what is portrayed in the actual Netflix miniseries. So those things are coming up over the next couple of weeks. I'm going to try to get back to uploading 2 to 3 times a week, as well as keeping you abreast of my weight loss journey. A lot of you expressed some interest in that. Still going strong. I've lost almost 70 pounds. I feel a lot better. My goal is just to get under 200. But, I started out way over 300. I'm kind of embarrassed to say. But, I'll get there. I'll get there. Let's see what L. Jensen has to say here. Yep. a salad of normal looks. I agree with you. They made their rounds at the local Mormon temples. They kept up appearances, but I think a lot of their beliefs were kind of fringe, even though they have their roots in the Mormon church. I'm the same way, Zach. I did veganism and vegetarianism. I was a vegetarian actually for about 3 years. I honestly should probably get back to that, but you do still consume animal products. I ate eggs and I love cheese. Oh my God. Honestly, it was easier. It was a lot easier when I became a vegan for about a year. It was a lot easier to give up meat than cheese and dairy in general because I like real cream in my coffee. I'm sorry. But I can do vegetarian a lot easier than I can do vegan. And I tried. I lasted about a year. And I didn't just, jump off that wagon. I leapt off of it, turned around, and hit the wagon with a flamethrower. So it was not good. But I could easily probably be vegetarian again. I like meat and potatoes too, Pam. Did the reporter that wrote about Annie really travel to meet her parents? I believe someone working with her did. I don't know if she actually did, but I believe some of the people working with her at New York Times, New York Magazine, actually did do that. I love donuts too. My favorite is the Bavarian cream filled chocolate dipped. That is my favorite. And me being on a diet, look at the stress squeeze that my mother-in-law put for Easter. It looks like a very nicely frosted heart cake. And I'm just like, because I love like confectioner's icing and stuff like that. And like, if you give me a cupcake that, it's like a lot of icing, I'm just going to, but you're bringing out the bad side of me. But maybe, for example, Ghislaine Maxwell, boosters, CRT in schools, Disney pesos. Yeah, I mean, it's a totally different world, maybe. It really is a totally different world than we grew up in. A lot of the stuff that happens today would never have happened when we were kids. It's absolutely true. I mean, think about what Disney's up to. They call Disney reporter talking about she's going to inject gayness whenever she can. And as a gay person, I'm highly offended by that. We don't need to do that to children at such a young age. I mean, I already knew I was gay by the time I was 5 or 6. I knew I was attracted to girls other than boys. I had crushes on female teachers. Kids aren't stupid. They know they're different. But I wouldn't want to have been told what gay was at 5. I think I discovered it on my own, later on when I was a preteen teenager, what it actually was, and I was fine. I think if you start, with Disney, the worst controversy we had is how the dust in that one scene in The Lion King might have formed a penis going up in the sky. That was the biggest controversy I ever remember with Disney. But now, them injecting gayness into everything. 10-15% of the population is gay. There's not gayness everywhere. I'm gay. There's not that much gay in my house. Just treat everybody like people and let kids be kids. They'll figure out what they are on their own. And if they are, gay, lesbian, trans, what have you, love them and support them and help them deal with it then. But we don't need to inject those ideas into children from such a young age, because if they aren't, that kind of messes with their psyche and maybe makes them, I don't know. Does anybody understand what I'm saying? I don't mean to come off as a bigot. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that kids should be allowed to be kids. Love them no matter what they are. But kids should be allowed to be kids. My greatest concern at age 7 was, if I was going to get to the television first to determine what channel we watched for Saturday morning cartoons instead of my half brother. I was just, that was my biggest concern. And I really wish kids could go back to that being their primary concern. You can really mess some kids up by injecting too much at them too soon. I remember, sex ed in general only started being taught, I think, 4th or 5th grade. And then it was just like kind of girls have a vagina, boys have a penis. And when they get together, they can make kids. That was the extent of the sex education I got at 4th grade. It didn't really start, hardcore until like 6th grade and middle school, junior high. So, but by then, we're in puberty. We're kind of thinking that way. So, but giving it to kids kindergarten to 3rd grade? No, let them be kids. I knew I was different in kindergarten, and that's fine, but it wasn't primarily in my mind. I knew I really, really, really liked my kindergarten teacher and wanted to hold her hand. That's all I knew. And that's fine for 5 years old. And then, later on, I'll figure out what it was, but don't tell me at 5 I'm gay. No. My little sister said, exactly. And it's quite common for little girls to have crushes on their dads and vice versa. I mean, we can get into whole Oedipus, whatever. But that's just kind of how I feel. Like I said, I'm gay. My wife's gay. There's not that much gay in our house. We're just people. And we certainly, if we had children, would not want those being taught. I mean, they would know that mommy and mommy love each other and love them. They would understand kind of what it was. But would we ever tell them that they should, no, let kids be kids. We're sexualizing kids too young, just too young. But anyway, back to true crime. Recently here in Nashville, the Nashville area, Antioch, which is I actually lived in Antioch when I first came to Nashville. It used to be a fairly low income, crime ridden area because that's all I could afford. It's still kind of that in spots, but just last week they busted a trafficking ring at a very nondescript house in an area close to where I used to live. Yeah, so it happens all over, people. And I think that is a kind of an outgrowth of the way we're sexualizing people. I'm all about, if you want to engage in sex work, I think it's a viable service as long as you're safe and you do it willingly. I'm all for it. Legalize it. I'm all for it. And I think it would eliminate a lot of the issues with people being forced into it if we did legalize it in a way. But I think if you start sexualizing children, then that's what you get. You get kids being kidnapped and used for nefarious things. And I hate that. And young women too. It's never just young women. It's always young women and children. And I think once they release what's happened with that house that they busted in Antioch, I think we'll probably see it was probably girls of all ages. And it's just really sad. It's really sad. Anyway, it's my birthday. Let's talk about happy things. What is everybody doing this weekend? And yes, Pam, I agree with you. We did talk about, sexually transmitted disease. It's sexually transmitted disease now. Now it's sexually transmitted infections. But STDs, STIs, we did talk about how to prevent that. And it was a good thing. For sure. For sure. For sure. He's 2 years old. He hung my brother. Flame Lily, I have to agree. I dressed in men's, I put on my dad's shoes. Exactly, Zach, exactly. But I wasn't I'm a tomboy, and I think even that term, you're not supposed to use that anymore. I was a tomboy, but my mom never thought anything of it. You don't automatically assume somebody's trans just because they like to dress in clothes. They will figure out what they are. Children are not dumb. They will figure out what they are at an appropriate age, and they will tell you. You don't need to tell them. You do not need to tell them. I think that's the big difference. Let them tell you. They will just be open and loving, and let them know you will love them no matter what, and let them figure it out on their own. That's the natural way, in my opinion. But in any case, guys, it has been wonderful, wonderful hanging out with you today. It's just made my birthday weekend complete. Got to get going now. I got some stuff I got to do for tomorrow, but next week, look for Nurses and Doctors of the Third Reich, and hopefully, my first installment on the bad vegan crime, and I may throw some other little white collar crimes in there for you too, because I don't think y'all, if I haven't noticed, I love white collar crime. I love financial crime because it's interesting, it's fun, and no one dies. That's why I like it. But anyway, I love you all. Hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day, and I will see you again real soon.